I've always lived at the same village for my entire life. It was a nice place for everybody else, but when I was younger, I could always apparently see things that most others couldn't. I still believe in what I saw, since there's no way I could have made those things up, as I wasn't allowed to watch anything scary on the TV because of my parents. My village was actually built on top of a huge graveyard, and a lot of people were killed on the streets and in the houses during the war that happened 30 years ago. I constantly had nightmares and heard voices, but nobody believed me. The scariest experience I ever had has to be the time that I was walking my dog. He was a basset hound and a gentle giant that would never hurt a fly. My house is near a big forest and near a river. I was never scared to go exploring. To get to the forest, we had to go in between tall bushes and down a path that had a cliff next to it. It was the only way in or out. We went further down where the river was, and while my dog walked around, I sat on an old boat that looked like it hadn't been used in decades, but it seemed sturdy. It was a pretty quiet day without any wind when I heard something walking behind me. I turned around just to be greeted by nothing. I shrugged it off, thinking it was probably a small animal or something in the tall grass. Sometime later, I heard somebody say my name. Marko. It came from a deep, cracking voice. It didn't sound human. I jerked my head to where I thought I heard it, and I saw a tall, humanoid figure without a head and two glowing red eyes that seemed to be on its chest. I knew I wasn't imagining it because even my dog was barking at it. When I saw it, I turned my head, pretending there was nothing. Usually that was the best working option for me in previous paranormal experiences, but it continued. Marko. Every few seconds, I decided to keep pretending I saw nothing and got my dog to go back up. I started walking with a normal pace so I don't look suspicious, but it didn't stop. Marko. Marko. Every few steps, I turned around to look at my dog, secretly looking at where the creature was, and he seemed to continue hugging behind trees, following me. A few minutes later, I could finally see the road, but I was still scared. I started smelling a rotting smell, like rotten eggs and sweat were combined. And all of a sudden, Marko! It screamed my name. Me and my dog started sprinting towards my house. When we finally got there, I shut and locked the door and peeked out of the windows. It stood behind a tree in front of my neighbor's house and just vanished. I was shaken and waited for my parents to tell them what had happened. Of course, they didn't believe me. They never did when I told them these crazy stories. The next day, I went to walk my dog on another path, and staying closer to my house, I saw police in front of my neighbor's house. When I got back home, I asked my parents what happened, and they seemed very shocked. Turns out the neighbor stabbed his wife and fell into the river and drowned. He died right before I went down there. I have a theory that the spirit was his, but I don't know what its intention was. Was it to harm me as well? To tell me to go to his house and see what he did? I've always been puzzled by it, and still am, but at least my parents believe me more when I tell them something paranormal happens.